like I said before, there are some things to think about when it comes to using Tailwind, knowing what we know about the fact that it's ripping through all these files and figuring out what classes you are using and not using. Which, is it important that you understand every nuance on how Oxide does that? Absolutely not. Is it important that you understand the 3-sentence version? Yes. Which is, imagine that it is not particularly complicated, right? Which is, it's not loading up like a language server like TypeScript and reasoning about everything. It is basically, it's effectively, in earlier versions of Tailwind, this is true. It's less true now, but spiritually, as far the mental model works, which is, imagine it's just using a regex on every text file in your code base. Bye.
Does the idea of Tailwind treating files as plain text mean that I could have like a class name stored in a JavaScript or TypeScript variable and Tailwind would pick that up?
Yes. As long as you have the whole class name, which we'll talk about in a second.
Got it.
If you try to get clever, and I think it's on the next slide or one after that, if you try to get clever with template strings and concatenation, no, right? Because it doesn't reason about your code. It's just literally looking in somewhere in these files, did they say bg-blue-600? Yes. So yeah, it goes through all your files. It's not doing anything. It's just looking at the text. It's just looking for the classes it knows about. And we'll talk about how to customize Tailwind, right? Built into Tailwind, there are colors. There are spacing. There are fonts. But it is not like the days of Bootstrap where you knew. You knew if a page was made with Bootstrap. There's default colors. There's default spacing. There's default font. Everything in Tailwind is customizable. Right, and we'll look at how to do that in a little bit, and that changes what then the build tooling looks for as it rips through all the files. But basically, once it gets a sense of what the tokens, based on how you've tweaked it and customized it, are, it goes through everything, just simple string matching the whole way through. It does ignore some files. It ignores the files you think it ignores, right? It ignores the files that everything ignores, like things in git ignore. CSS files will get ignored because they are going through the build process themselves, and that's where Vite or Webpack or what have you works. And obviously lock files, it ignores the files you think it ignores. That's most tooling happens to ignore. And so, as kind of I alluded to with Mike just a second ago, if you try to get clever, the chances of you messing it up are high. So if you think you're smart, just try to do the simplest possible thing. And so if you are trying to say, oh, I want to do a template string and inject that color, well, now it's not going to find it. However, if you say const success equals bg-green-400, const error, as long as the full string is even in your JavaScript, your HTML, a file somewhere, it counts, but it can't try to then run your code and dedupe everything at this moment. So yeah, if you are going to mention a class, go all the way, mention it in full. And I will say this because we're gonna spend a bunch of hours together. It could happen to me at some point. It will happen to you at some point. If you don't see the style, you're I did it and it's not happening, that's the first thing. Did it get stripped out for some reason? Right? That is the first thing your brain should go to. Did I try to concatenate strings? Did I try to do something? There are ways to navigate this because sometimes you don't have all of the markup in your code base. Not always, but if you are pulling in something from a third-party library and they're putting the classes there, you might have to tell Tailwind to allow list or safe list certain classes, and that's all doable, but also really esoteric, right? Unless it's coming from some other place. Generally speaking, as long as you follow I didn't try to use a template string or concatenate my way to a class, you're probably good. Cool. There are plugins. Plugins are actually written in JavaScript, but you can import them via CSS. These are just using CSS functions and directives to kind of pull in additional functionality. I can also pull in a given font. This is literally from my own sites. CSS file. So yeah. And so you can pull in stuff along those lines. We talked about allow listing. So let's say like you are pulling in some other component that you're loading from somewhere else. Like, you know, you'd be like, wouldn't that involve like directly injecting dangerous whatever. I don't make the rules. Like you have, like, we all know that some of us have like weird parts of our code bases because of legacy reasons. You can also say like, hey, do not strip this out, right? And in this case, it will like keep that class in there, even if it doesn't find it in the code base, if you're then loading it from somewhere else.